What's up, everybody? It's your boy Mad Max back at it again for great another What If. And if you're hearing any background noises, that is my parents downstairs looking at a movie. So yeah, what if Deku was in Cyberpunk? Part one. Here we go. So we gonna start this What If out like this. Deku's dad is gonna be a scientist, and Deku is 5 years old. And his dad has been working on a project because in different types of battles that Japan had by helping the US soldiers, some soldiers lost arms and limbs. And Deku's dad was tasked to create like a very useful prosthetic arm or leg or eye or hand or something, right? So yeah, when Deku was 5, he went to um his dad's lab with him one day. His dad was working on a prototype arm, and some scientist walked in there and was like spouting out nonsense about we shouldn't do this. This is unhumane. And Deku's dad was like, "No, we need to do this for our country." And he just basically said, "Screw you," and he fired him. And Deku's dad is stressed up because like that's the only person who helped him come up with the arm and limbs for um the soldiers. And Deku's dad remembered that he is a scientist and he has a intelligence quirk. So he recreated the gene of a quirk. Like he found out where quirks originated at to to the point where he added his own type of DNA in there. He added a tiny bit of a weird DNA from space and different planets. Mars, Venus, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, every like those planets. He found those samples on Earth. And he tasked himself with creating an arm that runs off basically the human body. So he was searching around because, like, when his friend left, everything shut off on him because his friend had the power to erase a lot of things, and he was smart too. So yeah. And Asashi, he was worried because like he had his son with him, and he remembered that he had a lab at his house, and his house is pretty big, but like he had his own little lab and a place to work out, like a place to work at downstairs. So yeah. So our boy Asashi, he grabs Deku and he takes everything inside of the lab, from like VR headsets to arms and blood cells and a lot of DNA. And he takes all that stuff down to his lab at his house. Inko saw him rushing in and going downstairs to his lab. He just slams the door and he says, "Don't bother me." And he tells Deku to come in. And Deku goes downstairs and his dad knocks him out. And he takes Deku and put him on a table. And he basically had to try something on Deku because he didn't want his son being quirkless or something like that. So our boy Deku is knocked out and Dasashi is working on a cure. Not a cure, but like more like a virus for Deku. And he accidentally knocked over the DNA containing the chemical X, Z, and Y, and some DNA of a quirk, like the origin quirk, and they all mushed together onto a prosthetic arm that had metal on it. and it basically just shifted the metal into like a arm that's like moving, growing like that. And Asashi saw what he did. He knew the right amount of things that were in those vials and the right amount of blood that was inside that vial and the arm too. And he thinks, this would be a good thing. So he basically takes that arm over to Deku, and Deku's pretty hazy and wheezy. And Asashi had his mouth shut for reasons because he doesn't want Inko coming in like, "What's happening, my baby? What are you doing?" No, he don't want that. So yeah, he taped his mouth, and he sort of really was thinking, I don't want to hurt my son, but on the other hand, it's for science. And he chooses science over his son. He basically just slaps the arm next to his arm on Deku. I mean, like, he takes the prosthetic arm and he puts it by Deku, and the arm just expands and it goes around Deku's arm, and it clenches it clenches his hand and his arm. And Deku screaming, and when he stopped, and he's screaming a lot. And Asashi was like, "Calm down, Deku. Calm down, son." And Deku is calm. The chemicals they're interacting with his blood is creating a quirk for Deku. Those chemicals, those were rare chemicals that he never knew of, and he found out just by using his brain creating them. And he's just was surprised. Deku gets up, curious, like, what's happening? And he sees his dad on the ground saying, Thank you, Izuku. I really, really want to thank you." And Deku is confused, like, what does he mean? And Deku sees his hand, it's pink, green, or something. It's like a greenish black color. And Deku is scared. And he says, "What have you done to me? What have you done, Dad?" And Deku is yelling at Asashi. Inko hears all this, and she just barges in there saying, "Is everything okay?" And she sees Deku's arm. And she's, "Asashi, what did you do?" And he says, I perfected it. My final job. I perfected the rare thing that I wanted to create." And he is freaking out, and he's happy about it. Inko calls the police saying, "My husband did something to my son that I don't know of. Can you come down here and see?" And the police come down there. They basically see Deku's arm, and they see Asashi smiling. And they know Asashi because, look, Asashi attended to them personally. Because guess what? They were old veterans in a war a long time ago. And they are very dedicated to Asashi's work, so they take Asashi into the cop car, and they take Deku to the quirk doctor, and they just said, "You know what? No witnesses." The cop pulls out a gun, shoots Inko in the head, boom, she's dead. And our boy Deku is scared. He shit. He didn't really want this to happen, but like the cop knocks him out again. And Deku wakes up inside the cop car with his dad, and like he's handcuffed to the seat. And he sees everything going by him like a weird plane thing or something. And Deku pretends to sleep. And he's going, and he hears plane engines, and he sees plane, cargo, everything being being loaded to the cargo plane, and Deku is scared. And once they got on the plane, Deku, he ripped the chains that he had on him out. He ripped the chains that were on him, and he sort of pushed all the crates and everything out of the hangar. I forgot the name of it, but the cargo plane, and the door is open. And Deku sees a parachute, and he doesn't know how to work it. But then that metal weird stuff goes to his eye, and it basically reads how to use that whole thing, like the parachute and everything. And Deku just says, "You know what? I'll trust it." And he grabs the parachute and he just jumps off, with people shooting at the parachute as Deku's falling. And Deku lands in a weird place that he's never been to before. This is the place known as Wakanda. Deku, he's sort of confused because his arm doesn't really know where it is, but the only thing it's reading saying high levels of chemical XYZ blood. And Deku's sort of confused by this, but his left arm, is just stretching out in the point of Wakanda itself. And Deku is he's sort of confused and scared. He's saying what's going on? I don't know what's going on. And Deku's hand hits the entrance to Wakanda. The guards see this, and all the guards just come out of the kingdom and say, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" And since T'Challa, RP Black Panther, you feel me? But Shuri comes out of the kingdom saying, "What are you doing here, kid? And how did you find this place?" And Deku's scared because he doesn't know what's going on, but his eye that has been taken over by the robot, it basically makes a projection saying, "Hello, my name is Asashi Midori, and this is Project Punk." And Deku is just scared again. But Suri is surprised. She's heard of quirks, but she's never seen it in action. She tells the guards to capture Deku and take him to his lab. And take him to her lab. And Deku is knocked out again. For some odd reason, I keep making him being knocked out, but it's sort of okay because it's Deku. Over time, he'll be too OP. So yeah. So Deku's in Suri's lab, and a weird machine is scanning his body from his arm all the way up to his head. And Deku can't move because Suri had him basically strapped down to the table. And Deku feels his left arm twitching a little bit, and he sees the machine beeping, saying high levels of metal, high levels of chemicals, different chemicals, substances of space and the moon and different planets and earths. And Suri is brother is right. Because she programmed her computer to sound like T'Challa. For I don't know, weird reasons, because she wanted to be more like her brother. So yeah. So the computer just said that saying high levels of metal and other chemicals. And Suri says, "You know what? I'm sorry, kid, but I gotta cut your arm open." and the left arm that was infected is sort of twitching and more twitching. And Sora is curious, like, what is going on? And she tells the machine to cut the arm open. She she cuts it open, and guess what? It's just wires, tissue, veins, weird red, black colors, and red and blue colors going into Deku's arm. And Suri asks, "Is this your quirk?" And Deku says, "I don't know. I just had it a few days ago." And Deku's confused because, like, his dad never treated him that way before, as like a test dummy or something. No, he has never treated him that way. But our boy Deku, he sees Suri doing stuff to his hand, and his hand feels a little bit better. And Deku asks, like, "What are you doing to my arm?" He says, "Don't worry about it. I'll help you." And she basically makes Deku another arm. But this arm is sort of vibranium-like. And she tells the weird machine to basically cut off his left arm and keep it for safekeeping. And Deku's scared because, like, no, sorry, but that's my hand. You can't cut it off. And she says, "Sorry, but I did." And he sees his whole arm gone. And he sees the vibranium arm on there. He's screaming out in pain because, like, that arm was connected to his nerves, his eye, everything. And Deku, he's screaming and screaming more as the vibranium arm is being put onto Deku. And his robotic prosthetic arm is jumping, squiggling around, and it jumps off the table and it runs back to Deku. And it scans the vibranium arm, and it heats up very fast, and it just merges with the vibranium. And Deku's confused. This is strong. I like it. And Suri is like, "Wow, I didn't know that was gonna happen." And she says, "How about you stay here and train with us?" And Deku's like, "Train with who?" And he sees who she was talking about, the Wakanda guards. And Deku says, "Alright." Deku basically is training with the Wakandan guards from like I said that he was 5. So I want to say that he's 7 now. For almost 2 years, actually. To the point where he's learned how to fight in hand-to-hand combat with weapons, using guns, bow staffs, lasers, or something like that. He learned all of that, and he also learned from Suri. And Suri said, "Oh, if you want to, you can stay here or go back to Japan." And Deku really thinks that he doesn't know nobody in Japan that you know of. And sorry for stuttering. But like our boy Deku, he has lived through hell. He has got battle scars, everything. And as Deku was about to leave, Suri stops him and gives him a weird amulet. That weird amulet, that belonged to T'Challa and or Iron Man, because T'Challa and Iron Man was pretty close people. And Deku's sort of confused, like, what is this? And Deku sees the weird emblem on his arm, and he says, "Is this for me to unlock a new feature of my arm?" And she says, "Yeah, it is for that." And Deku's like, "Thank you, Suri. I couldn't have lived this whole life without you." So yeah, Deku is leaving Wakanda. And as Deku is leaving, you can hear a loud boom. And Deku, he sees a weird being come out of the sky. He sees a weird man holding a staff with horns and wearing gold with a weird smirk. And he's heard of Greek mythology of Loki and Thor, but he has never seen them in person. And he sees Loki, the child of Loki, coming out of a portal. And Loki is sort of confused because he sensed godly energy around here. And he thinks it's just nothing, but he sees a plane flying by and he senses a weird being on there containing weird elements of the Asgardian cube. And we all know that Tony probably copied some data off the Tesseract, knowing Tony, and so did Black Panther probably took it out of Tony's database. So yeah. And Deku sort of is curious, like, why is that thing coming at us? And out of nowhere, the only thing you can hear saying, and Loki's standing right there, saying, you must be the father. No, you must be the child who has that weird tremendous power I sensed. And Loki just, like, taps his staff once or twice. And he basically knocked Deku out. And Deku's sort of resisting his magic. But Loki keeps on tapping and tapping and tapping until Deku passes out. And Loki sort of takes Deku back to his Asgard because since Thor is on Earth for some odd reason, Asgard is recreated in Loki's image. Because Loki did do a lot of mischievous things to the point where he was reincarnated once or twice. But yeah, our boy Loki took Deku to a weirder version of Asgard. But time works differently here. 1 year out of Asgard is just 1 day. But in Asgard, it's like 2 days out there is like 2 years in here. I'm putting time chamber logic to it too, so don't be mad at me. So yeah, Deku sort of wakes up on a weird table covered in gold, and he sees the Destroyer's armor. And if you don't know what that is, please watch Disney Plus and look up just look up Avengers or something like that, and it'll pop up. So he sees a Destroyer armor that Odin used to kill, like, his wife or sister, or I don't know, like, yeah, that he used. And he sees it on another table with his arm off. And if you're wondering, is Deku gonna be too OP? I don't think so, but like, in a way, it's gonna be too OP. So yeah, Deku sees Loki standing by him, just standing there, and he says, hello?" And then Loki says, "Oh, you're awake. Oh, here." And Loki sort of taps his staff once and twice or 3 times, and the arm of the destroyer is gone. Deku sees his arm that the normal Wakandan arm is on. And he sort of sees the new arm that is on him. He says, like, what is this? And Loki says, don't worry about it, boy. Now, can you wield this? And it is a new hammer. Since Thor should have lost control of Stormbreaker, and he created another one, he sort of just threw Stormbreaker out. And it landed in Asgard. And Deku, he feels this weird pain in his left arm, and he tries to pick up Stormbringer, but every time he tries to pick it up, his arm will short circuit and buzzing his nerves a little bit. But every time he reaches for it, it's like his arm is changing, transforming or something like. But then Deku, he pulls the whole axe out of the ground, and as he's pulling it out of the ground, his arm reacts in a different way that he never thought. Due to the chemicals, Vibranium and everything inside of his arm, and the destroyer armor arm, the hammer basically just molds into another arm for Deku. And it's on his other hand, his right hand. And Deku is scared, like, what is this? And Loki says, I don't know, but father never told me of this. And he goes into his room to speak to his father, because his father sort of isn't dead, but like in a way he's in purgatory. So yeah, Deku is in pain because Stormbringer is shooting electricity all out through his body until it hits his eye, the mechanical eye, I want to say. It hits his prosthetic eye, and it basically just shocks it blue, green, changing into those colors. And Deku is screaming, and he gains a pretty good control over it. But he overhears Loki talking to his father. And Loki is still talking to Loki's father. And Deku, he runs in there, charging at Junior Loki. And he uses the arm of Stormbringer, and he just throws his head down into the ground, killing Loki. Not knowing that due to Stormbringer being inside of Deku's literal body and his blood, it connected to his nerves and everything. So yeah, Stormbringer took the magic out of Junior Loki, and it basically used it for itself. And he grabs Loki's staff, and it molds and melts down into a weird metalish paste, and it wraps around his hand. And Deku is getting stronger and stronger, but out of weirdness, he passes out. And Heimdall walks in because due to him being under Junior Loki's spell, he had to do everything that he was told by Junior Loki. So since Loki's dead, Heimdall runs in there about to go kill Junior Loki, but he sees Stormbringer's hilt not there. He sees a dead body of Loki, and he sees Deku on the ground. He doesn't know what's going on, but like he picks up Deku and he scans him with his magic, and it basically says human. human with godly DNA in it. But Deku, no. Deku is knocked out. He's in his mindscape. He's talking to somebody. He's talking to Loki, Thor, and Odin. But Deku's just trying to get that out of his head. He blocks them all out of his head. And he feels Heimdall grabbing him and dragging him to the portal. And like Heimdall says, rest well, human. And he sends Deku back to his world. You know, instead of that, but like he sends him to a weird world because due to Loki's magic inside of Deku, it sort of interferes with the portal and it just sends him to somewhere else, like somewhere else. But this place, this place isn't normal. Yes, I'm gonna have a time skip. Time skip till we see like to the point where we see an older version of Deku. And let's say that he's 13 or something. He's 13, swinging from tree to tree, and the destroyer armor arm merged with the Loki staff. It sort of merged with his other arm to the point where he's able to move metal from his arms or something like that. And he's fighting a weird beast. This beast had a weird liquid metal on him, and Deku thinks that would be good for him to upgrade with. But that beast slams Deku to the ground. And this is where I'm gonna leave it off. And I know this doesn't really make sense, and I'm sorry for all the noise in the background. That was a lot of noise that my parents were doing. So yeah. Mad Max. Sunny out. Adios, amigos. Macho uno, number one Mad Maxo.